LOPs. I'll keep it into this double setup because it will be easier to just drag and drop out BG. And let's do hair broken, copy it. You always need to rename this node because this is what Solaris uses for the naming convention. So this is BG now. Boom. Then hair, I will call it whole. And here go back to the hair renew and just pull this hair whole in here and call it hair inside. And put it in there. They can be together in here, so I know that these are here, the BG. And we need another one for filling, which is these lines. Lines in here. It starts looking for this. All right. Now I know why I can. No, wait. This should be looking better. Let's drop an area light so that it's just not broken, because this dome light messes everything up. Maybe it can be like this. Pull it up, move it up, like this, like this. Maybe even make it a spotlight. Have a smaller angle. This will only be visible in Karma. Let's leave it for now. I just want to see something, and it works. I'm placing the light on the left because I want nice shadows on these cracks, on these drops. So the light will hit here and create shadow on the lower side, just as it does in the reference. And this is a very good way to emphasize that. And this light can be even stronger, probably a little bigger, stronger. Let's continue with inputs. So now droplets, put them there. Yeah, here they are. And finally the ribbon and ribbon edges. So it's just copy this, call it ribbon and ribbon edges. Edges to edges and ribbon to ribbon. Boom and boom. What you will need for this setup from now on is this material. I'll drop it from here because I have it saved already. And this material may look complicated, but this is basically just material MTLX tiled image. So a texture bringer for base color, and then I'm bringing the metallic, specular map, and specular I call this specular level because I don't really know what it is, but I managed to to make it look right. And so then roughness, and this gold texture is actually free to get. You can find the link to it in the description below from Free ArtStation, and it is actually free for both personal and commercial use, so you don't need to worry about that. I am very thankful to the person who made that possible. From Free 3D Textures HD on ArtStation. Um, yeah, so that would be the one thing. But what you need to remember is that when you are dropping the normal map, you need a normal map MTLX node. I did not know about that, and it broke a lot of my renders. And usually this value will be like 0.1 or 0.2 because normal maps usually come too strong, and they are messing up a lot of stuff that you may or may not notice and then end up getting wonky renders. And lastly, bring in the displacement map and plug into MTLX displacement and put that into subnet outputs if you haven't already. And to create this actual network, you need to create Karma Arma material, Karma material builder. Yeah, so we will start with this. We'll create this displacement. And if you start, yeah, and you have this standard surface, which is the same. Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically it. In the UV tiling here, and this is basically so I can control the texture tiling with this one value for every texture. So if the UVs are too big, you can just slide it up and make them tile and tile and look. And that's good. That's what we want. So let's start off with creating the materials. I will start with something simple. So I will just copy this, say this is BG, delete everything, and here, just delete it, delete everything that you don't need. I don't know if these two nodes are necessary for this to work, but I'm always leaving them. And just make it white, and just make it a little bit emissive with some warm white basically. So I do it 0.3, and the color would be white, but then drop just a little bit of yellow and red into it, maybe even blue. Make it like that, just so it's like white but not pure white. And I will assign that to the let's do it. I like to assign my materials this way. I know a lot of people do assign material node, but I find this one to be alright for my purposes. So I dropped BG in there. And for the gold, we need to do more work on that. So let's copy it again. This gold will actually be used for the veins, for the lines in between. But let's first create a shader for the actual hair. And this one is very procedural, so let's also delete all of the textures for this one. We won't be using the gold, but so it will be used, don't worry, in the ribbon and in the lines, but just for the hair, for the broken hair, it's not necessary. So we just have this material standard surface, and what I'd like to drop in here, let's close this, we don't need it. And this is maybe too big. I want texture coordinates, which is the UVs. And you don't need to do anything with this node. It just brings in the UV coordinates of our hair into the setup. Let's see how it looks by now. And I'll call this hair broken. And bring all of the materials and hair broken, put her on hair broken. Alright, we have some problems because that thing was metallic, so we have some metalness and index of refraction issues. If you are making this from scratch, then this would not be here. Yeah, we don't want it metallic and we don't want it to have a different index of refraction than 1.5 because this is default. Okay, but by now texture coordinates, and I'll make a unified noise 2D because this one ended up working better for me. And let's just plug this into base color for now. So we can see that this is huge. So I'll make parameter because this thing is actually a Vex builder. So it's very close to LOPs, which I like. Let's just call it frequency. And this should be a vector too, so it doesn't get jammed. And I will actually multiply it by 30. Or maybe 20. This is totally unnecessary. I could just type bigger value in here, but then the values get somewhat big and annoying, so that's the way I ended up doing it. So this is value of 20 by 20, which is pretty big, and I'll pop this into the frequency. And boom, we have this noise that is super faint, super small, basically, yes. And the noise I want is not Berlin, it's actually fractal. Yeah, it looks interesting. And then I would like to do maximum. A maximum. Max. MTLX max. Max. Yeah, this is maximum, I think. So I'll put this in the first input and here put another noise called Voronoi, 2D also, Voronoi. And texture card from here, frequency from here. So they are both fairly small noises. And this is just so that it is more broken up. Could be maybe 0.3. We should totally make separate controls for them, or maybe multiply them by 10. But for now, let's use just this one. It's looking like this, and the second one. Does this max even work? max. Let's maybe do an add. What I really don't like is that I need to work on these noises in the render view, because if I turn off the XPU, I can't see them. Well, now I can for some reason, but usually I can't. And yeah, they don't update. You can see that they are there, but they're not the actual representation. So that's somewhat annoying, but so we need to keep on rendering, and that can take time. Yeah, so this is more or less the way I created this tiny surface imperfection on top of the hair. I wonder if this thing is normal's problem. I'll pin this viewport, these lines. So let's go to our hair broken and go down, go up. Don't compute them, making points. So no, it's not the normal problem. Is it? It might be the UV problem actually, because I don't know if I made these UV coordinates properly on this sweep node. And I did. Okay, let's leave it for now. I used an add, and I used this value for basically everything. So I'm remapping this value first of all. Remap. And here. And put this one into the roughness, the specular roughness. I always wonder what is the difference between these two, because I don't think, I mean, this first roughness never ever worked for me. It's like either super faint or I don't know, or this specular roughness, or even actually just the specular map. So let's disable this and see how it looks from the camera. So if I put it in here, and I would like this to be outlaw of 0.2 and out one for 0. So if I do it for 1, this is the inverse of our noise right now. But I don't want it to be too rough. I'd like it to be at some points a little rough, and at other points not rough at all. But I guess this is invisible for now, so let's make it more visible with a mix, MTLX mix. And here I used constants, but for this one I could make actually a parameters. This will be a color, and it's color so A, and this will be color A, and color B, color B. And I want to mix in between color A and B based on the noise. Let's make them some wonky colors for now. Let's make it pink and yellow greenish and put that into the base color. And as you can see, it makes remaps the noise values to that basically. And I don't know where are these Karma Material Builder. I actually know where they are, but let's leave it for now. Let's pick a brown color, make it brownish, super dark, and the other one could be also brownish, but much lighter, like this one, and this one will be less red, even less red. Yeah, this is something you can play on your own. So let's drive this into the actual specular map. And now, because this roughness wasn't really working, now we are getting the roughness of the hair. And where these points are, these dots, they are actually more specular, which is what you may want or not. Let's actually bring a MTLX normal and put bump. I guess this normal, I don't know, I'm just bringing it here. It may or may not work like this by default, but I'm bringing the normals from the geometry, putting them into the bump map, using this add, and then using a normal map value in here, making it 0.2 or so, and putting it in the normal. Maybe even less. Yeah, this noise is way too big. I mean, even still, let's make 30 by 30. Okay. And what I would also like for this material is to adjust some of the parameters. First of all, I want to make it have subsurface scattering, which is in here. I'll drop a subsurface to 1 and it turns white, which is why I will use the initial color of that I used for the base color as the color of subsurface as well. I want it in both of them. I don't know if this one works if we have subsurface, but it is what it is. And diffuse roughness, I have to 1.5. Whether or not it works is a question. And then this scale value for subsurface should be super small because right now everyone gets super illuminated by these strong lights. And if we make it 0.02, now we're suddenly having more color in this, and then I make the radius black. I guess this radius might be killing the subsurface scattering after all. Let's make it like that. Or maybe even let's make it a little brown. Okay, and that is it for the broken hair material, I think. You totally should play with this subsurface to make it more, and these noises, to make it more presentable. I certainly will. And maybe do some further remapping. But for now, this will suffice. Let's continue and create another one. This could be gold yet again, but this time we'll delete most, but not everything. First of all, what I want to do is do a geometry property value of emission attribute, because this material will be the droplets. Let's call it droplets, and let's do autofill materials. Put it here, put the droplets in there, and they already have everything we need. So now they are getting golden. But we don't want that. First of all, I would like to do some rudimentary changes. This will be 0.1, and disable this metalness map, put it to 0, because I learned that you pretty much cannot have metalness and transmission at the same time, and I want these droplets to be transmissive. So I'll put transmission to 1, and now they are getting glassy. And I need some nice color for it. But first of all, I would also like to multiply this value of the emission and plug it into the emission. Multiply it maybe by 4. So right now, if our droplets, whoa, where's that? Oh, that's the ribbon coming in. Let's find the frame where the droplet is getting near the air. So yeah, this one will be emissive, but we need to set the color that is different than black. So let's say maybe white for now. Yes, and these ones are starting to glow. And let's devise some color. I will break this connection. Metallic will not be used. Let's put it aside. Specular and roughness, I suppose they can stay. Specular level. This one can go also. Here I'd like to do HSV, which is material X adjust as HSV, which is hue saturation value. And these nodes don't really have too nice of controls, but I'll tell you this. This node brings in the golden color map, which is just this yellowy gold, basically. And I want to adjust this golden color, and I didn't want to fiddle with creating a color from scratch. I just wanted to use golden texture because human eye is very perceptive to things that are yellow, and it's easy to make them look bad. So let's just use this already golden texture that we have and just adjust it. So this color will serve us as the transmission color. And these values I just found by trial and error. Let's just see the values. Okay. And also for the transmission, let's do roughness of minus 0.1 and depth of 0.1. And that makes it less. Yeah, you can adjust this color. Just be careful, this parameter is super sensitive. So this is hue, saturation, and value. So this, we are darkening the gold and then making it more saturated and moving the hue into more into the reds. So I'll adjust another next another value, and for this one I would like to not move the hue, but I don't want to change the saturation, but I want to make it more lighter in value, and I will use that as the emission color. So it's not just pure white, it's just this brightened up yellow of the gold. Yes, so this is working. We can use the ramp that we created to slow everything down or to adjust the glow attributes, or even this multiply to make them glow a little less if you want to. But I think for the majority of this effect, this is it. Yes. Displacement is probably not needed in here. We don't want any displacement on that. So let's do another material that will be the actual gold. And let's call it gold lines. Gold lines. Gold line. And this one will be more or less the same as it is right now, but we need, let's just first assign it so we can see what we're doing. And right now our lines are actually hidden inside, so let's also drop a peak sub, and now the normals are fixed, so it should work. Let's peak these and let's do 0.003, 0.07, 0.01. Alright, so now they are above. Let's do 0.5 and polywire of 0.4. Yeah, that's a way to match. Yeah, this is better. point is we can keep adjusting it until it looks good, because I've spent a lot of time doing that. But okay, now we should see the lines. So let's bring in the gold line attribute, gold line material, and assign it to the filling. Now they are getting super golden, and now I can see that we are actually too far. So 0.3, no, 0.1. Don't recompute the normals. 0. Huh. Yeah, 0 is the best actually, so I'll just bypass this for now. And let's continue with the material for the gold line. So this material, what it needs clearly is some emission. So let's do geo property value for emission. Oh, but this is actually the setup where we used the pyro source spread. So let's bring in burn and multiply it also. Times 4, and this will be the emission. Just do HSV again in here, base color there. It's probably not to do the displacement. This is why. And let's probably do this by 0.2. Ah, okay, so that was the displacement's fault. Maybe the peak is actually useful. Oh, 5. Yeah, that's good. It's safer than displacement because we don't know what is happening there on the sub-pixel level. And for the gold line, we are bringing in the burn. So as you can see, these points where these are hitting should be starting to glow, but we again need to set a glow color first. So let's make it white. And they are surely starting to glow and expanding this whole setup. And what I also want to do is this interesting node called USD Prim Var Reader. And basically this is our alpha. Whenever you have an alpha attribute on your geometry, you can use this USD Prim Var Reader and right in here display opacity, and this is by default, this is the alpha. So this is how you are supposed to bring in alpha into MTLX network, and that you have set up on the points. And it's not with the geom property value. When I used Solaris in beta, it didn't work. You had to use this. Maybe nowadays it does. But this thing is actually useful. It works well. You just have to remember that this display opacity written with this capital O without space is the way to do it. And it always brings the alpha and just works out of the box. So that's good. And let's just use this HSV to adjust the color And let's also just brighten it and use this as the emission color for the lines. So this is the same color that the droplets are rocking with. All right. So this is the setup for the golden lines, material, and last one. Not last. It's not the last. Now we will do the hair hole. Hair hole. Hair hole. Interestingly enough, okay. Let's adjust and do this. Because sometimes if you have an alpha on your geometry, Solaris will pick up this display opacity, because do you remember that we have another hair hole on top of this? Yeah, so it's there. But if we are having this display, if the geometry is having the alpha, then it reads it on the fly and then basically doesn't let you know that it's there, because before, right now, it was just like right now we are not reading the alpha, but didn't if I hadn't assigned this material, then default material is just not making it disappear whatsoever, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. Let's do hair hole, and in here we'll do some crazy stuff. So what I'd like to do is this. I will go into the hair, broken, and steal everything that is happening in here and place it in the hair hole. Even along with this standard surface. Wait, go hair broken. I just want all of it, and Control C, paste it into this one. Yeah, so now we have basically two materials in one. And I want a mix. I want to do a mix of these two shaders and a collect node to mix two shaders. And this is assigned. So now with this mix, we can basically mix between the hair and the gold, if it works. And it clearly doesn't. So let's investigate. This is done. This is all right. It will be clearly in need of is this. Let's get rid of this normal map setup. I want this hair to be super smooth and golden, basically. I want the USD Prim Var for display opacity. I'd actually like to save this could be totally my default, because I'm always using it for display opacity, and if I want something else I will just change it. Let's leave it for now. I'll drop this into opacity for both of these. Now it disappeared, but on the later frame where the hair hole actually should be showing up, it is showing up, which is good. Which is good. But this mixing, alright, because I cannot have a collect node if I have this sub subnet outputs. I just need to put it in there. And now it is actually, let's do 0.5. I just want half hair, half gold. So this is how you can mix shaders basically on the fly using MTLX. And one thing that I would like to do is drop a multiply and multiply the metalness map or metallic map by 0.5. So just a little more of the subsurface scattering from this map, from this material shader can get in there. And I'll also do a similar thing for the roughness. But this time I'd like to scale it up by 1.5. And on the stop node, let's just check what's going on. On the stop node, it's basically the same as it was, so I will leave it as it is and say that this is just a hair hole. Hair inside doesn't really need a main material because we are just using it as a holdout basically, but I will get it same material as broken, so they will be both the hair broken, this one and this one, pull them in here. This is not real, this is selection. Okay, we have some problems with our edges. They appear to be bigger than I anticipated. So let's just come into the ribbon edges and maybe drop that to a half. That's better. And let's also copy this attribute blur and put it in there. Oh my, this is awkward. So I will maybe do it here. Before we are taking the wow, this is interesting. But let's do it here and then put this there and not do it there. Yeah, that's better. So now we have it a little rounded, a little rounded. Let's do material. This will be no, this will be a lot of deleting. So let's copy gold. Ribbon. This will be ribbon. I will need the emission setup, so I could have copied something else, but it's pretty easy to do, so let's just make a parameter and slap it into opacity, call it opacity. Because if I make a parameter in here, I can control it up here, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And we also need a geom property value for emission. For emission, multiply it maybe by 4, and do this hs file. No, not this one. hs file adjust here. So it's the same glow color that we had before, and use this as emission color. So this would now start to glow if I had assigned it. So let's assign it to ribbon. And it disappeared because ribbon has also the it has this ribbon opacity, which we need to set a default value to 1 so I can see it. Yes, and this is way too strong. Maybe let's leave it at 1. And I will also do multiply. These multiply metallic by 0. We can just cut it just as well. And metallic, it doesn't need to be metallic, though it probably could. And yeah, transmission color is what this should be. So let's do another HSV adjust on this one actually. Put it in the color, both into the color and transmission color. And this one I did for 0.6 and 1.7. And I do want it to be transmissive. So let's go in here, do transmission to 1. Depth can be 0, or maybe 0.01. And then roughness to 0.3. And transmission color is this initial one. And yeah, we don't want no metalness. We have this, and we have opacity. Let's see if we can see something through it. And it would appear so. This is super nice. Let's drop the opacity down to maybe 0.4 to just make it super slight. And I would like, wait, this is metalness, right? Yeah, metalness is still at 1. Skip it at 0. And now it's getting actually transmissive. And now out here, because in the end, in the reference, when this ribbon goes around, let's say in the end, I'll just extend the seam a little bit. Let's do frame 200. Okay, so just save it. I'll get a quick look on this animation. Yeah, it's between these two. So let's say 150 in. I would like to do edit, material properties for the ribbon. And I want to create parameters, and look at that. There is this parameter that I called opacity. And I would like to do setter create. And here I can now globally control this parameter in my LOP setup. And the advantage of that is that this is just working, because supposedly we cannot have animated parameters inside of MTLX networks. Even though this is not technically true, you can do that, but it's just a somewhat safer way to just promote them in here and control them on top. So I'll just do it here. This is opacity 1. And by frame 192, you can just totally disappear. Why not? So over course of these few frames, it will end up disappearing. And one thing that I would also like you to watch out for is that sometimes when I was doing this setup, when I was using opacity that is animated by alpha or by the opacity parameter, I had some issues with this preview. So the ribbon appeared as if it was like broken into particles. It was looking really bad, and I was like, "What's going on? Like this is not what's supposed to be happening." And then I opened this and created a snapshot. And when I looked at the render in here, it was looking correct as it is right now. So watch out for that if you encounter this error. So this is just the error with this actual Karma XPU preview and not the actual render. So that's something to watch out for. Let's just finish this with the last material for the edges, and they will be also glowy like this. I think this material is pretty much the same, except that it's not transmissive. So let's adjust it first, assign it first, and then adjust it for the edges. We are definitely not doing any displacement here, mister. Neither here nor here. Normal can be super small. I don't know if you can notice it, probably not. Opacity stays, emission stays, multiply. Just delete the transmission, maybe make it more golden. Maybe it should be metallic. And transmission to 0, depth to 0, roughness to 0. I always like to zero out all of the parameters so I don't make mistakes later on. Yes, and it also has emission values, so this is good. This might be even better, maybe make it like 2. and it looks somewhat correct. So we have all of it pretty much. And except for some color changes and adjusting some of the attributes, this is basically the setup, I think. And I'll probably need to split this into two halves. Oh, right, one more thing, we would need to copy this and just do a same animation on ribbon edges, so it just disappears the same as the ribbon does. So they are synchronized. I'm looking into this parameter creation. It seems super useful. And yeah, and here just do the karma, and yeah, with some passes. If there is something that you need here, would be probably subsurface scattering limit, because we are doing subsurface scattering, so I want it to look good. And then velocity blur, because as you can remember in the droplet setup in here, where are the droplets? Yeah, in the trail sub we actually made velocity, so let's use it to blur them as they are traveling down. And mhm. It's super slight, but it's there, and these things add up in time. What I actually did for the actual render was also create super shallow depth of field for, oh, this is bad, like 0.54 or so, and then here do a Shift F, so you can control the yeah, basically the focus distance. With Shift F and then Shift click, you can control the yeah, focus distance plane. Shift F, Shift F, Shift F, Shift F. Cycle these and real small, so it's like this macro look that you are doing macro photography on these on the hair. I don't really like how these subsurface scattering edges are looking now. Mm, so I would probably adjust that to be something darker. We don't need this gold, but let's leave it there. Broken subsurface color. Maybe let's do scale of like something big so I can see it better. And so this is how it goes. I don't really understand what this anisotropy is doing yet, but I'll leave it like this, make it maybe smaller. Something super small. Yeah, you can clearly see it's there. So like without subsurface scattering, it's getting super dark. and with it, it's like lighter and light interpenetrates into it, so it's not totally. Yeah, and I also created one light on top so you can get these nice edges on these chunks. It should probably be smaller because small light sources have sharper edges. And this dome light is super small, and just drop a HDRI in there and it will look better. And in here, area light, this can be somewhat strong, but make it smaller, like 0.7 to 0.9 or something like that. But it's now too weak. Yeah, interesting. So now we have these edges of shadow in there, which look very good in my opinion. And I also made another source of light that was here in the bottom. It's if you look at the reference closely, then this bottom edge is lit up. So I just copied this area light and put it from the bottom and light it from there. And we don't need the render for this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so basically just light it from bottom up. And it's something like that. Just lit bottom edge. Just so it has a little bit more of this light in here. And it has this like super laboratory look, something like that. This is a super blown out effect, and make this one actually make it big. It could be something like 8 by 8. And to make it easier for ourselves, we could also make it ignore the BG, but that's something who, yeah. And we can now see that our bottom BG material is reflective, which I don't really want, so I'll make it rough and see how that looks. I wonder why this is so harsh. And here, because the light source is huge, so it should be way softer, but maybe it's just too strong. Whenever you are testing lights, what you can do is drop this light mixer, super useful node for lighting, and this is lighting operators, so it should be useful. Drop your lights in there, and now when you go to the sliders, you can basically say, wait, why doesn't it work? Okay, I don't want the dome light and I don't want the second light, I just want this one. What? This is bugged or something. I don't know, something isn't working properly. Whenever you press the star, you just take all of these and put them here. The star is supposed to be solo, so this should not be all lit up. But yeah, let's leave it for now. This is something you can usually use, but right now I don't want to debug that. So this is it for the bottom lighting setup. And if I remember something else, yeah, I just added the HDRI and the one very last thing that I added was this camera physical lens shader. And this is a very interesting material node that you are adding not to your materials, but actually to your camera. So this camera is now using a lens shader, and I will select my material library and use this physical lens. I wonder if you can use a different material there so that your lens is metallic or something. Yeah, but what I did was polygonal bokeh sides of 6 or 8 probably, and lens distortion that was cubic, I think, of value of something super small, like 0.0001. But because right now it's scaling the other way, because this is the, if you go really high, this is the distortion of the camera lens, basically. If you go the other way, it distorts it like super crazy. But if you do it super small, then it um, distorts these sides of a lens and make them a little blurrier, so it's even more of this like macro look to the render. And you could even do chromatic aberration, but I didn't want to play with that. So this is what you can use a physical karma lens, physical lens shader for your camera for. So yeah, I will be wrapping this up. This will be a hugely long tutorial, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.